Dan Severn, the Beast.
How are we doing there, Gareth?
Very well. Thank you for joining me.
Well, I'm glad to be here. Here I am in beautiful Sydney, Australia.
What are you doing here?
Well, I basically came over here for a professional wrestling, or as I like to say, wrestling show. It's in the world of sports entertainment, as The Rock would always say it.
Who did you compete against?
Well, this was a historic moment because the legendary most dangerous man in the world, Ken Shamrock, and I, Dan the Beast Severn, tangled in what is known as the squared circle. I don't know where they come up with the concept of the squared circle, meaning for a professional wrestling ring, but that's what has been around forever. And that's what actually brought me to both Melbourne and then to Sydney, was being involved in two different shows. And what I'm just really fortunate about is kind of something we talked about off the air was, at this juncture of life, still getting additional hurrahs or like an encore. It's because I'm well past the age of the normal professional wrestler. I simply know that walking into a locker room now, I will be the oldest athlete, but oldest by how far? Usually it's by a couple decades, and the more and more recently it's been 3 decades or more. And this would be probably one of the first cards that I've actually been within a decade of whomever I'm stepping in the ring there with. So again, being in the ring with a Ken Shamrock at 55 years of age, and then there's myself at 61 years of age. But Ken looks very good for a 55-year-old, and I look really good for a 61-year-old. Don't really, you're not gonna see many people look the way like a Ken Shamrock does, or what a Dan the Beast Severn looks like at those same ages. It doesn't fit the norm whatsoever, but I've lived a rather abnormal life, so I don't know what the word normal means anymore.
I notice your shoulders. You still have quite a physically fit physique.
Well,
How do you maintain that?
I would say that that's just a combination of things. First off, I have to thank my parents because they gave me good genes. Mm-hmm. Lots of people get good genes, but did they do things to help improve their status and stuff like that? So, I've been involved, Gareth, I've been involved in athletics my entire life. But even prior to athletics, simply growing up on like a farm. When you grow up on a farm, a 120-acre farm, it's a combination of crops and animals. So you name the animal, we had it. Chicken, pigs, ducks, geese, rabbits, cattle, milking cow, goats, lambs, you name it, we had them all at different points of time. And you learn the structure and rigid format of time and daily duties. And you had to do certain daily duties before ever going off to school. So in the morning you had to take care of your chores. And it was easier because I had other brothers. I have 7 other siblings. I'm second on the totem pole. Older brother and I'd say that the first 4 males, we did a lot more work than when the next grove of kids started coming along. Things started changing for my own parents, but you had to get up in the morning and you had to feed the cattle, water the cattle. You had the chickens and the pigs, and not only did you feed the animals, but then in like the chicken coop, you've got to collect the eggs from the hens that have laid the eggs from the night before. But what a great childhood of growing up, because you're eating fresh eggs, or what they refer to as free range. I kept thinking, I didn't even understand some of these terms, free range and stuff. I'm thinking, what does that mean? And then after I start understanding what it means, I'm thinking, well, that's all we ever have had is free range
like
chicken
what's the
eggs.
alternative sort of?
Yeah, and then drinking fresh milk right from the milk cow itself, but then knowing how you have to screen it with the cheesecloth so that if any impurities, like it could be like hair from the cattle, because it has a coat of fur. People don't really realize that, but they have a coat. You have to make sure that any of these impurities that drop into milk, You always run the milk through a cheesecloth so it takes out any kind of impurities of that nature. And then you set this almost finished product inside a refrigerator or cooler. And then over the course of several hours, or a lot of times we simply just let it sit, and then overnight, you'd come in and you would see a layer of maybe 2-3 inches thick of a heavy cream at the top. And then you skim off the heavy cream, and then you're left with a very rich milk to drink on top of that. And I mean, a lot of times you'd have to still stir your milk because there was still cream residue on top of that. So I just said that, eating well, eating really good things for you, but then, that rigid lifestyle of getting up in the morning, taking care of your chores before you could eat, and then you'd get ready, and then you had to walk a half mile up the road to catch the morning bus. And when you got back home from school or practice or an away game or an away wrestling match or something like that, you still had to take care of your chores again, no matter how late that might be. So there'd be some times where I might be out milking Peggy, the family milk cow, at midnight, because by the time a wrestling meet got over, by the time an American football game got over and you got home, stuff like this, you still got to go out there and take care of the animals. As my father would say, son, do you like to eat? And I would say, yep. And he'd say, so do the animals, twice a day, morning and at night. Same way, water, twice a day. You water them down so that they have stuff that will last them throughout the course of the day. So those, I know it's a long answer, but people say, well, that's part of how I stayed physically fit, because it's hard work. Do you want to make 2 trips back and forth to the little river or the little creek? I mean, it all depends on where you're at. Some people refer to a small stream of water as a creek, or they might just refer to it as a little river. Oh, we had like a little river that was running through our property, and I could grab 2 5-gallon buckets, or I could carry 4 5-gallon buckets up the hill, so I have one less trip. So again, it just doing this hard work, baling hay and doing the whole 9 yards, a lot of manual labor. But then through athletics, knowing that there were opportunities to do things, then that parlayed even, I'll say, a second dimension to my career. And even though, as I stated earlier, being of 61 years of age, I still work out almost every day doing something. Even though I might be at my desk typing away and things of that nature, I'll set my cell phone alarm, and usually for every hour to get away from the desk. And I might be just to get out of my chair to actually go on the floor and maybe do 1 set of push-ups, 1 set of squats, 1 set of calf raises, 1 set of torso twists. But people are like, well, that sounds like an awful lot. No, it's all done in probably less than 5 minutes. And then I just do something like that. And I might go grab myself, and once I do that, I might go grab myself a cup of coffee, might go make one of my little elixir drinks I kind of talked to you about before. But I always have some type of a beverage that I'm sipping on, whether it's for a little bit of a caffeine to keep stimulating my brain, or just something that's I'm putting in my system that is good for me. Again, a long roundabout way of giving you an answer, but there's not too many things that Dan Severn does that I don't take the easy way out doing too many things.
A few years back, I asked you a little bit about motivation, and I remember you talked a lot about your farm background there, and it seems as though that sort of that routine of needing to get tasks done because they were crucial.
And that is a carryover even to this day. If you were actually to walk in, say my office that I work at, whether that office be in Coldwater, Michigan, or whether that office be in Fountain Hills, Arizona, you'll still see how structured I am. I mean, it's I have things here. I have my list of to-dos. I have a daily planner of what I'm trying to carry out. The only bad part about a Dan Severn is I tend to bite off more than I can chew. It's like I have my to-do list. Well, I will never see the end of the to-do list. More and more things will keep being added to it. And I always tell people I run out of time on a daily basis. There are some people, and I look at that as being very, very fortunate. I'm a very positive type person. I always say that I'm drowning in opportunity. Oh, but what a way to go. Most people, they scratch their head on a daily basis and go, what am I going to do? I scratch my head wondering, how can I do it all? Yeah. So, but a lot of it is perspective, and I'm a big believer that attitude goes a long ways, and there's a lot of people that simply just have poor attitudes about things, and like I said, I've been working for myself. It was a bad situation how it all came about, but I've been working for myself ever since 1992. But I took, instead of sitting there dwelling and sulking and stuff like this, that's why I'm like going, well, these are the cards I've been dealt.
92 being an issue, the Olympics.
Well, I know that was actually in 1984. I mean, you and I would not even be talking today. Had everything went, had everything happened the way I was kind of pre-planning my life, I would have retired back in 1984. That 84 Olympics was when I was probably at the peak of my athletic career. I'm probably at the height of male testosterone raging through my body and stuff like this. I'm working out like a madman at this point in time. But instead of being the Olympic gold medalist, I basically was the Olympic alternate. I actually had to sit up in the bleachers and watch the man ahead of me win the Olympic gold medal. He did not give up a single point. Everybody that he wrestled, I had pinned in underneath 1 minute. It would have been the easiest gold medal for me to have ever won. Not at just one weight class. I mean, that was the 100 kilo or 220 pound weight class. But I also, the heavyweight, his name was Bruce Baumgartner. He won the gold medal. Everybody that he wrestled, I had pinned underneath 1 minute because I was making the 100 kilo weight class or the 220 pound weight class was not an easy task for me because I was out of season. I would be anywhere from 235 to 245 pounds, getting down to the 220 pound weight class. And I wasn't carrying much body fat at that time. I mean, I was a freak because I spent 7 days a week, twice a day, minimum of twice a day working out. And on other days, I mean, I might be working out 3 times, maybe 4 times. So you put in, as I tell people, you get out of life what you put into it. As I stated earlier, attitude goes a long ways. As I get older, I almost don't like to be subjected around a lot of what I quote normal people, because they bitch and moan about the most petty of things. And I look at them and go, you're still alive, aren't you? You're still walking, aren't you? You're still breathing, aren't you? I go, you see the apparatus that you're using mindlessly, which is a cell phone, because I see a lot of people that is mindlessly they're playing video games, they're texting, they're talking, they're wasting a lot of time, and most time, if you really listen to them, they're bitching and moaning about their situation. Get a job. Well, first off, hopefully you have a job. If you don't, go get a job. Have money coming in so that you're taking care of current bills, current lifestyle, stuff like that. And
just needing that day-to-day routine.
Yeah, but now use that cell phone to do an online class. Better yourself.
Something productive.
Yeah, because I do a lot of motivational speaking in high schools and in universities. So as I'm talking to them a little bit, a lot of times I have to reacquaint them as to who is Dan Severn. Why is it relevant for me being in here? Because I'm goal orientated. I've been successful not in just one aspect, but multiple aspects of my career, and it's not just about athletics. The biggest thing about athletics, it's a mindset. It's easy. I've coached at a couple different universities, a couple different clubs. I've had boat training facility and work with athletes. It's easy to train a body. the hardest thing to do is train the mind. And it doesn't just simply pertain to athletics. It also pertains to normal people. People want to become successful. So do athletes. You have to train your body. You have to train your mind in order to become successful. What are you going to do? I have 24 hours in my day the same way you have 24 hours in your day. What time are you going to start your day? What time am I going to start my day? How late am I going to stay up till? How are you going to eat? There's so many different things that you can do that will affect your output on a daily basis. Also, what kind of people are you associating with? Are you associated with positive, goal-driven type of individuals, people who are being successful? I'm trying to think. You've watched the movie Rocky, haven't you?
I have.
The original Rocky movie. Now, there's a segment in there, and again, I'm going to try to do my very best Sylvester Stallone impression right now. But when he's talking he's on the streets, and there had to be one young lady that she's hanging out with a bunch of thuggish type of boys and stuff like that, and he's trying to, and Rocky's trying to give her some words of advice. He's like, yo, you got to start hanging around better kind of people, stuff like this. If you hang around a bunch of yo-yos, you're just going to be a yo-yo too. So you got to hang around a bunch of better quality type people, and you become a better person. Which it was comical in the movie. And she didn't take his advice, and she flips him off and stuff like this, But at the same token, he's telling the truth. If you hang around with a bunch of yo-yo type of people, how can you help but not be a yo-yo yourself? You want to be a better person? Hang around with better people.
Yeah, a lot of truth to it.
Oh, very much.
One thing I notice is how driven you are and how eager you are to get on with things, get things done, respond to emails. Can you tell me a little bit about a typical day for you now? You've obviously retired from.
Well, I've retired from. I've retired from the fighting game. I refer to it as a fighting game or the cage fighting game, even though in our other conversations that the other people that have not been privileged to. I tell people that I've never been in a single fight in my entire life. But I've been a competitor my entire life. I would have never have pursued, say, a boxing career or a kickboxing career or a Muay Thai career because I do not possess those skills, the skills of a striker. I don't know how to really strike with my hands. I don't know how to really kick, knee, elbow, things of that nature. But I was a very successful wrestler or grappler, even when the Ultimate Fighting Championships, also known as the UFC, when it first came out, I did not know it existed because at that time period, pay-per-views were not that prevalent. In order to watch a pay-per-view back then, you had to live in or around a major metropolitan area. So let's look at like a country like Australia. You're not going to see the pay-per-view out in the bush anywhere. Again, cell phones weren't that good, and they didn't have all those kind of apps. You may have to have been in or around Sydney or Melbourne or one of the other major metropolitan areas. It's not going to be available in these smaller town outlying areas. I was living in little old Coldwater, Michigan. It's a very small community, rural community. Pay-per-views didn't exist. I didn't even know the first couple UFCs took place and passed me by. Never knew they existed until a friend of mine, brought it to my attention. And they basically, what they done is they copied one of the shows on an old VHS tape. Some of your listeners may not even know what that is. They may have to go to, in the United States, they would go to the Smithsonian Museum, and that's where they might see an old VHS tape, because most people don't have workable VHS players anymore, because now we're on to CDs and the next evolution of whatever you're going to watch. Live streaming is actually the biggest thing that's happening now. So again, a long story here, but I became aware of this mixed martial arts product.
Do you remember which event it was?
I believe it was I think it was like number 1 and number 2 that were recorded on the same date. And because I know that I first tried to get into UFC number 3, but I was already too late. What I mean by too late is the Ultimate Fighting Championship organization used to take out full-page ads in various martial arts magazines like Karate, Kung Fu, boy, I'm drawing a blank right now. So many different martial arts, but there were several different magazine publications, all dedicated just to the martial arts. Whether that's karate, kung fu, taekwondo, these are some major types of martial arts broadly across the world. Judo associations, stuff like that, and the UFC would take out a full-page ad. And it was something like, "Do you want to be a no-holds-barred fighter?"
And you responded to the ad?
I simply I responded to it because they had a place to mail in, and I simply mailed in an application. Nobody ever called me back because I was told during that time that they were getting hundreds of applications coming in almost on a daily basis. They had all these tough guys because women were not in the equation during this time period. It was strictly only men. And again, it was a tournament format. If I mention Ultimate Fighting Championships and or UFC today, a lot of your listeners, they'll know what that is, but they're only going to know it as MMA. MMA stands for Mixed Martial Arts. That phrase did not come about until the early, I would say, late 90s is when it came in. When I think 1994 was when the UFC first began. Actually, the very first show was, I think, December 1993. But it's so close that I always just tell people 1994 is when it first began. And they ran a 8-man tournament format. Most of your young listeners that are listening to us right now, they're only going to understand a UFC show where individuals are fighting just one match. They're part of a card of there might be 8 matches tonight. And they're just one match on that card. Back during that NHB, which stood for No Holds Barred time era, it was an 8-man tournament. So in the same 2-hour pay-per-view that still plays to this day, where you fight one person and you're on a card of 7 bouts, back then you had to fight 3 fights in the same 2-hour format. So that's not much downtime in between matches, and hopefully you don't take any damage along the way, because if you take damage in match number 2, how is that going to affect you in match number 3? And then match number 1, if you take damage, how is it going to affect your match number 2? But then by match number 3, you have probably taken some damage, but you can make a star back then easier than you can make a star today, because back then, you won your first match. So match number 2, you might be standing there, and you might look a little scruffed up. You might have a little bit of a shiner over your eye, or something like that, some swelling, and maybe a little crust of blood on you. But you're ready to throw down the second time. By that third match, you most definitely have some damage. You got a split lip. You might have you might have a cauliflower ear. You might have even a broken nose. You might have hurt your hand or something like this. But you're ready to throw down again, and people will be like, "Wow, this is crazy! The guy's ready to fight again for a third time."
So they had an opportunity back then to show heart.
Or show heart, but then the cardiovascular preparation, because during that no holds barred era. Today's product, again, because most of your listeners, they understand what mixed martial arts is, but it's all set to time. Standard is 3 5-minute rounds. That's the standard match. Then the main event match will be 5 5-minute rounds. That's the big grand poobah match that takes place. Well, back during the NHB, no holds barred time frame, it was unlimited time. No rounds, or look at no round, just one round until somebody succumbed to the other person. No time limit whatsoever.
What do you make of the two different formats?
Oh, there's a huge difference. You could simply say that today's fighter is more well-rounded than what the pioneers of this sport. The pioneers of this sport, like people like myself, most all of us were one-dimensional. What I mean by one-dimensional, you might have been just a boxer, a kickboxer, Muay Thai, karate, kung fu, or you were judo, jiu-jitsu, sambo practitioner, a wrestler, taekwondo. You were just one element. You were either good with striking, knees, elbows, feet, knees, or you're good at grappling. Again, all the different categories. So
the sport had to start somewhere.
So they just said that a lot of times they would say, well, this person comes from more of a grappling background. Okay, this individual is more from a striking background. So a lot of times the format was striker versus grappler. But when you fast forward to today, the evolution of 25 years later, now you might have started off as a grappler, but now you can strike. You're a grappler that can strike with the best of the strikers, or now you're a striker that can grapple with the best of grapplers. So you have to be. You cannot be lopsided in your skill set. You have to have some striking ability because all the matches start on their feet. And somewhere during the course of those matches, you are going to clinch. You are going to get shoved up against that cage wall, or you are going to fall down on the ground. So you better have some kind of survival skills. I was just always good about not getting struck and clinching people and welcoming them to my world of grappling.
One of the things watching the old fights in the early UFCs in your day was the transition you made from UFC 4 to UFC 5. I understand UFC 5 is where you acquired the nickname The Beast.
Yes.
What happened with that transition from one event to the next?
Well, again, when people get a chance to look up some of my old fight footage, because with the YouTube and you can actually go to the UFC and they have a lot of matches of former competitors. You can see the transformation that I made in UFC 4 was my first appearance ever for that company, the Ultimate Fighting Championships. But I was like a last minute fill-in. So by the time they told me that I was in, I mean, I've always been kind of a busy person. I've lived out of a planner, probably since my junior year in high school. And so now high school was many eons ago. I'm a 36-year-old man getting ready to turn 37 here shortly. But I'm close enough to always tell people I started my cage fighting career at 37. You don't start a cage fighting career at 37. You retire. But that's when opportunity presented itself. So UFC says, well, we've got an opportunity for you to be in UFC number 4. Do you want to take it? Sure. Because I don't know if that opportunity was ever going to present itself again. So got to do it.
Can't miss it.
So my training camp, when you hear about fighters today going in a 4-month training camp, a 6-month training camp, picture this: I trained for 5 days, an hour and a half a day. Today you can go into almost any community, and you will find a gym that has either a full cage or a part of a cage, and they're actually working on techniques that apply specifically towards mixed martial arts. Back then, there was only one cage, and it was owned by one company, the Ultimate Fighting Championship. So there were no gyms I could go to. I drove from Coldwater, Michigan, over to Lima, Ohio, and I was working out with Al Snow, the professional wrestler Al Snow, and a couple other professional wrestling proteges. And they had, inside of a professional wrestling ring, because it was the closest thing we could come to a cage, was working in this little confined 16 by 16 ring. Now the octagon is 32 feet across, so again, it's misproportionate because that's like one half the size of the dimension of the octagon cage. They had one old pair of boxing gloves, one, so that when you were done working out with me, you gave it to the next guy, and then he gave it to the next guy. I stayed inside the ring the entire time until I needed to grab a sip of water or something like this, but I never took any breaks. But did I learn any skills? No. It wasn't a training camp where they're teaching me anything. They were simply just trying to pummel me, trying to kick, punch, and do whatever submissions they knew how to do. And then basically I just was using my amateur wrestling skill sets. But I have a very diversified background. I had, in the United States, we have a style of wrestling known as folk style. We're the only country that does folk style. Our folk style is what we do in our junior high, high school, and at the university level. The rest of the world does either freestyle wrestling or Greco-Roman wrestling. It's done every year at the World Championships, Pan American Games, and every 4 years at the Olympic Games. So typically, most Americans, upon college, graduate from the university or the college, they're 21, 22 years of age, and now their only chance to really represent the United States now is in freestyle or Greco. Where the rest of the world, like the Russians, the Turks, the Mongolians, the Bulgarians, they learn freestyle or Greco starting at around 4 years of age. And some start actually as young as 3. Because kids are so much more pliable. It just all depends on what country you come from. For example, currently in the United States now, you can start competing in amateur wrestling at 4. And I have some parents bringing in their 3-year-olds and like going, mold him or her, because boys and girls can both wrestle at the same weight class, stuff like that. And there are some strictly female wrestling competitions, but for most part, there's not as many opportunities, so females are allowed to compete against boys. So, again, opportunities there, things that have changed during my lifetime so far that I've seen.
So it's not until the two genders reach a certain age that the physical, biological differences start to become more apparent.
Even in high school, they still compete against each other in the same weight classes.
All right.
There's only I think a couple female programs inside the United States where it is strictly female wrestling orientation. Most females, I'm trying to think, what is it called? There was an NCAA rule, and it was called Title IX. And in Title IX, when that came about, you had to offer the exact same opportunities for females as for males. So a female can go out for an American football team, all-male team, if there wasn't a female program available. And, most schools, most universities cannot afford all these programs. So it just gave, females opportunities. I mean, even in my own training facility, I started having females come in and they wanted to start learning how to do folk style wrestling, how to do freestyle wrestling, how to do Greco-Roman wrestling. And I taught them just like I would teach a male. No different, even though there's a big difference, yes.
One of the tournaments that really grabbed my interest was Ultimate 95.
Yes.
Take us back to that tournament and what stands out for you?
There's a number of things that stand out to me. It was it was the first time that they were starting to implement rules. Now, again, people that watch the current product, it's known as mixed martial arts. Mixed martial arts has either 47 or 49 rules to it right now. It has rounds. It has the athletes wear gloves. Back to that nose guard, I could wear wrestling shoes. But if I wore wrestling shoes, I was not allowed to kick or stomp. Well, I don't kick or stomp already. What did I lose? I lost nothing. But I actually had better traction on this little vinyl type surface, because wrestling shoes have like a little rubber bottoms onto them, and you just stick better to it than being barefoot. If just a little bit of sweat or a little bit of water spillage from your corner in between rounds and stuff like that, you could easily slip on the sweat and not have the footing. So again, as I said, when they said if I wear wrestling shoes, I'm not allowed to kick or stomp, but didn't lose anything from my skill set. I don't do that anyway. Good to go. So, like I said, there's a huge difference between the two sport eras and how that stood out to me. And again, I'm giving your listeners an education down history lane so they understand where I'm coming from. But during the mixed martial arts with 47, 49 rules, where no holds barred had only 2 rules. Those being, do not bite your opponent. Rule number 2, no sticking any fingers in their eye sockets. No eye gouging. End of the rules. So anything that you could think of, punching a guy in the groin, kneeing him in the groin, kicking him, or punching him in the throat, headbutting them there, fish hooking them there, grabbing their hair, grabbing their ear.
No groin shots seems like an obvious rule that one would
you would think, but
intuitively implement.
Biting and eye gouging were the only 2 things. There was a classic match from that no holds barred era, talking about that, where you had a karate competitor by the name of Keith Hackney who fought against Joe San. Now, Keith Hackney had Joe San down on the ground, had Joe San with his left hand, he had Joe San by the throat. He actually had his hand was right around his throat, and it looked like he was trying to crush his esophagus and twist and tear it right on out. But with his right hand, he delivered 4 or 5 or 6 different groin shots. Now,
I think he was wearing Speedos at the time.
Yes.
Quite apparent.
Yes. I mean, if you were to show that video to your audience, especially to an all-male audience, the first time, because I did this as an experiment. I went to a couple of different classrooms where I'm doing a talk about, mixed martial arts versus no holds barred era and things of that nature, and I would tell the instructor, I go, I'd like to show a little videotape of one particular match. It was that match. And so, say a classroom of, let's say, 32 to 36 students are inside this classroom, of which, let's say, 50% of it's male and 50% is female. And so as I'm watching this thing, as soon as you see Keith Hackney administer that first punch, you could see all the male audience. You could hear them go, oh, because every guy's been hit at least once to realize that doesn't feel so good. But by the time punch number 2, punch number 3, physically, I'm actually pointing this out to the instructor. I go, we're not even watching the screen, what they're watching. I go, watch your audience. You now have the different male students. They're literally they're pinching their legs together. They're starting to bend down over because
they have an appreciation of.
They understand what's happening. To the point that when that whole segment was done, I've actually had to have some of the male students that watched it. I had to go get a brown paper bag and have them breathe in and out so that they could calm themselves down. Because it actually nauseated them to the point because their mind was there. They had been there before and have had something like that. So it reawoken a traumatic type of experience for them. So again, that was giving your audience that, again, long answer, but that no holds barred was a whole different segment. Ultimate, it was no holds barred. First of its time. So you still abided by this. You're bare knuckled. It's going to be an 8-man tournament. You still have to face 3 men that night. It's bare knuckled. It was the first time that they implemented time, but it was not rounds. It was how long a round would go. I think the first round, I think it was like a 15-minute match. You had 15 minutes to take the other person out. I think round number 2, I think it was a 20-minute match. And then in the finals, it was slated for a 30-minute match with a potential of a 5-minute overtime if there was no clear-cut winner. When I say clear-cut winner, knockout, TKO, your corner could throw the towel in, you could tap out, you could just simply verbally just tell the referee, I'm done. So those are all different options that you had. That some of these options are off the table. They're no longer an option. So this ultimate, between my 3 opponents, I was inside that octagon cage just over 1 hour. Now think about this. Fighting 3 different men in the course of one night for just over 1 hour and anything goes. No holds barred. Only 2 rules. No biting, no eye gouging. Bare knuckled. It was, no one has ever repeated that. Nobody has ever gone that long in one night. And this was in Denver, Colorado, 1 mile high elevation. So the air's thinner. You had to prepare. But I did 2 training camps. I did 1 training camp for 32 days for UFC number 5. And that's when I walked away with the ring name, or I should say cage name, The Beast. And then in the ultimate, I reigned supreme again there. And those were 2 of the most prestigious, I should say the ultimate was the granddaddy of them all, most prestigious tournaments, because they brought back various champions and our runner-ups. At that time, it was the biggest prize money they put out, but again, that was at that time, and 25 years ago, basically. So that happened in 1996. So close enough, I'll say right now.
Can I ask a little bit about your interactions with UFC brass, right from sort of your initial 4 competition?
I'm actually, as far as I know where you're going with this right now, because from our previous conversation off air I do believe I am the only athlete that has worked for all 3 different ownerships. The very first ownership, the person who came up with the idea, the brainchild of this crazy combative type of thing, was a gentleman by the name of Art Davie. He was the idea. He was the businessman. He's the one that got sponsors on board. He was the one that was able to talk a state athletic commission into allowing him to do this event. He was that guy. He was the guy that came up with this idea of, what kind of a format can we do? Because a lot of things were being conducted in boxing rings and kickboxing rings, and some stuff that were done in a circle, and it turned out that people could fall between the ropes or slide underneath, and they eventually came up with this cage concept. But even the cage concept had a couple crazy ideas. They actually had this idea of a cage suspended in the air was one of their ideas. There was another one with a cage that was going to be underground, but it was going to have like a moat, like a castle, and it was going to have piranha or something like that to even make it more scarier yet. But the cage concept is what they came up with. And partner number 2 was Horian Gracie, oldest son of Helio Gracie, of the Gracie clan. And a lot of people have heard of Hoist Gracie, being in competition with the Ultimate Fighting Championships. And Art Davie was aware of. He lived in California, and so did Jorge Gracie, and he heard about this the Gracie challenge, that they would take on any oncomers, stuff like this. So he basically solicited Jorge Gracie to be his partner and help select athletes and for the various types of competitions, because he wanted to get kind of as wide a variety of competitors as possible. He wanted to know that he had a boxer and a kickboxer and a Muay Thai and a karate, taekwondo, all these different kinds of athletes. He wanted to come out in there and to find out which style or which individual is going to reign supreme. Mm-hmm. Is it an individual? Is it a style? So that was, again, and then ownership number 2, Fertitta Brothers, a couple of brothers. They own Station Casinos, own like 90% of the Ultimate Fighting Championships, and their third partner they brought in. They just drove blank right now. Help me out here real quick.
The president?
Yes.
Dana?
Yeah, Dana White. I'm sorry. Again, I had his pictures I don't know why I draw a blank. Hopefully it was not because I've been hit in the head too many times. But no, Dana White has always been the picture of it, the spokesperson for the Ultimate Fighting Championships. And, Dana White, I believe, owned 10 or 11% of that company at that time. I think that, again, I believe that they acquired the Ultimate Fighting Championship from Art Doer and Jorge Gracie. I think they purchased it, I believe, for $2 million. Is what they purchased for. I forget how many years exactly it was from the time that they purchased it from them and then sold it to kind of a Hollywood conglomerate now. It's not just one person. It's many people that own a piece of the action of that company now. But they bought it for, I believe, $2 million, and then however many years later they sold it for $4.2 billion. So a rather good investment,
say the least.
But they had a hard row to hoe. It was kind of tough there because you had Senator John McCain that was rallying a lot of other politicians and legislators trying to do away with this sport altogether, and they had to make concessions, and then more and more rules and regulations came into effect to where it has now morphed into the product that you see today. But even then, I can tell you right now, more rules will be implemented over the next few years as well.
One of the things that stands out for me, looking at some of today's fighters, some of the mischief they get up to outside of the cage. As far as I'm aware, you managed to keep away from any type of strife. You managed to maintain your good reputation, which I believe stood you in good stead. You've managed to keep your good name. Can you talk a little bit about?
Well, there's a number of athletes that you can talk about. You could say that you could talk about like one of the more current fighters, like a Conor McGregor, would be one of the greatest examples that you can utilize, that he was able to use his speaking skills to get him involved in high profile matches and get him some better paydays, or create this emotional roller coaster between him and his opponent that became very heated, very adversarial, to where more people want to tune in because it just became more and more outlandish. Conor realized early in his career, because if you just go back in time when he first began his career, he was simply happy to be in the Ultimate Fighting Championships competition. He was just happy to have just won his first competition. He was happy to be off of Ireland's version of welfare. Most people won't know that, but he also started to realize he had a gift and a power because a lot of people liked how he used his demeanor. To where now he's going, well, maybe I can use this fan following in a different way. Or maybe I can do a couple more outlandish things. So when you start seeing, after that first championship win, you start seeing some more antics starting to play out in his stuff where, he, as he's moving up to higher profile type matches and stuff like that, now he's winning belts and he's, getting into main event type of championship matches. His purse is moving on up, and he's he's wearing tailor-made suits, and these tailor-made suits are using off-colored language and things of this nature. He's wearing sunglasses, and he's just doing more and more outlandish things. You might be the current champion, and you got your belt there, and he'll walk by like nonchalant, and then grab your belt, and then I'm going to take the he just.
Being reinforced, essentially.
Well, I'd say he's taken certain playbook plays out of professional wrestling as well. I mean, when you look at there's a fine line, and there's a lot of carryovers between professional wrestling and mixed martial arts. And the bottom line, both of these things are nothing more than an entertainment product. The only reason that you're going to tune in to watch professional wrestling, you're going to be entertained. The only reason you're tuning in to watch the Ultimate Fighting Championship is ultimately you want to be entertained. It might be the fact that you got two guys that have a beef against each other. You want to see, because they've been doing a lot of trash talking. Trash talking is also another way of doing hypes. Again, maybe it's because of my upbringing. I'm not going to sit there and curse a lot. And there's some of the tours that I seen that when Conor McGregor was supposed to basically to do a boxing match with
Floyd
Mayweather. Yes, thank you. Floyd Mayweather. You should have simply called it the F Tour. Because, you got Conor McGregor dropping F-bombs left and right. You got Floyd Mayweather dropping F-bombs left and right. And then you got Dana White, the king of the F-bombs.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. You might be too young, but there was a TV sitcom called The F Troop. An old Western, stuff like that, way back when I was young, but it's been long
Before
gone.
my time.
Yes. Yeah. So I kept thinking, well, this should have been called the F Tour. Because I kept thinking, man, these guys need a pocket thesaurus. There's a whole lot of other words you can use. Means the exact same thing, and you might actually educate some people along the way. But, I had to do what I felt that represented me more than anything. I'm not going to be, I'm not a trash talker. I respect those that I compete against. I'll shake your hand before, I'll shake your hand after. There's certain things I did do in some of my promos, but it would be something as simple as the camera guys they're like, well, what kind of a promo are you going to cut? I go, you just count down 3, 2, 1, and then I'm just going to do it. And so and they're like, well, what are you going to do? I go, just trust me, I'll do it. So they count down 3, 2, and just before 1, I close my eyes, and then they're rolling, and they're like, and I just wait. I open up my eyes, and I go, and I start off, I am at rest, and I'm at peace. Soon, it will be time to release the beast. And then I just shut my eyes again. And they're like, that was so cool. But that was something I could live with, because it's I did not make up the ring name the beast. As we said earlier on, it's given to me the legendary football player Jim Brown. Let's run with it a little bit. What I mean by releasing the beast, I mean I'm going to release the competitive spirit. He's the one that gave me the ring name the Beast. Anyone that knows me growing up, I mean, they know what a gentleman I am, what a sportsman I am, Basically, I'm an easygoing person. I always tell people that Dan the Pussycat Severn doesn't sell tickets, but Dan the Beast Severn did. It is just that persona. It helped open doors and stuff like that. But people were surprised how I could be so nice and easygoing, and then walk in this cage and then start suplexing and ragdolling and dropping knees and elbows and things of nature on people, and going, you're like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, type of thing. But no, to me it's like, no, that's called knowing when to turn it on and when to turn it off. I've been that way my entire athletic career. I love the sport of football, American football, more than I love wrestling. But I did not have 10 other players play with the same passion and enthusiasm I had. And so it's kind of like, and we lost games. And that bothered me because I didn't lose. I did everything with my power. No one got past me. They got tackled. But we lost. And so I chose the sport of wrestling because the definition of wrestling, it's a team sport based upon individual performances. The team can lose, and I can still win. I like those odds.
You talked a little bit a moment ago about this ability to turn it on, turn it off.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about anger in competition? Is anger part of being able to turn it on, turn it off?
So there'll be a lot of athletes or people that would probably say yes. Mm-hmm. And I would say no. Being a coach, the toughest thing for me to train is to train your mind. I have coached at several different universities. I've had my own training facility going, since '92. The hardest thing to train is an athlete's mind. I can train your body. I can teach you skill sets. I can condition you to where I know you got all the cardiovascular in the world. But bottom line is, do you believe in yourself? I have seen what I call the king of the practice room. They can beat anybody in the practice room because they're amongst their teammates and stuff like that. But you put them out in front of a live audience against someone that they have never wrestled before, and they lose, they choke, they doubt themselves. Yeah. Then I've seen other athletes that inside the practice room, they can't do anything right. They'll actually trip over the painted on line on the wrestle mat, which is, you can't really do that, but I've actually seen that though. And you put them out in front of a live audience, and it's kind of like, dun, dun, dun. They turn into Superman. It's like the biggest vitamin B12 shot they ever had. But most people fall somewhere in between these two elements. Those are two extremes.
I think Conor McGregor, going back to him, he's perhaps one of the people that is noted for performing well under pressure. Doesn't seem to feel the pressure.
I think he enjoys that, but that he was good at that. He talked a lot of good. Again, call it the trash talk, call it nature, but he followed through. He did these predictions, and they were winning. Again, let's go well before Conor McGregor. One of the great notables from the United States and the world of boxing, Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali was not really a trash talker like a Conor McGregor. Muhammad Ali did not swear, but he used all kinds of comical type of demeanor. It's like, I float like a butterfly, I sting like a bee. That's why they call me Muhammad Ali.
Perhaps swearing back then might have not sat well.
Exactly. Times have changed and stuff like that. But he was good about psychological warfare too, though. A lot of people did not realize the way that he could get into your head and go, that I'm Ali and I'll take you in 3. Yeah. 3 rounds. I'm Ali, I'll take you in 3. He was, and it just, but he did it in a way, but it was psychological warfare. And that's, again, going back to coaching, it's easy to coach a body. I can get you to run. I can get you jumping rope. I can have you banging on the bag. I can have you drill and drill and drill and drill. And You're phenomenal in the practice room. But in your mind, how can I make that mind believe in itself? That's there's a lot of wonderful coaches in a lot of different fields of sports that they had that magical ability to ignite a team to exceed their capacity. I always tell people that there's a lot of coaches that say, "Son, I want you to give me 110%. I want 150%." They give you outlandish type of requests, and I want to go up to them and go, there is only 100%. There is only 100%. And most people will only flirt with maybe about 75 to 80%. There's 100%, and then there's, if you go over, it's called the 101, 101%. When you go into almost a whole different dimension. I've only encountered that dimension a handful of times in my entire career, where literally I transformed to where it was almost. Have you ever watched the movie The Matrix?
I have.
Okay, where he's got bullets being shot at him, and he's seen him come in slow motion, and he moves out of the way and watches this kind of zip past his head. Everything's in slow motion, stuff like this. Well, again, on a few different occasions, I experienced, not being shot at, stuff like this, but seeing my opponents trying to do things to where it's like, I know everything that they're trying to do to me. And then it's almost like they're in first gear, and you're just stopping them. There's just nothing that they can do that you're already 2 steps ahead of them in this.
Almost operating at an optimal level.
Yeah, and again, that's why I say that athletes, especially coaches, when they start saying it just drives me nuts, because I go, you really need to retake a math class, because they'll teach you 100% is usually maximum capacity. And when you deal with people suck, Gareth, because most people talk an awful lot. But I always tell people that I like to listen with my ears. You say you're going to do this, but my eyes tell me differently, because I don't see you doing any of what you just said. That's again why I say people suck. Well, they do, because how many people promise and they're going to do this? What's the number one New Year's resolution? I'm going to lose weight and get in shape. The gym industry thrives on it. They sign up more members in January than any other month of the year.
I can believe that.
And people buy all these outlandish memberships, and then it's like a ghost town in there. There's nobody there. I know we're kind of going off a different tangent, but to me, all these, they play off of each other. There's a psychological aspect of an athlete. There's a physical aspect of an athlete. And physical means strength, but then also in cardiovascular endurance and flexibility factors. You can't be a big, strong, and non-limber individual. And, these sporting event like mixed martial arts and that, you have to have a lot of different skill sets.
Have you ever witnessed an athlete transition from having the physical gifts, but perhaps not the mental aspect, to developing that mental aspect and overcoming that?
Yes. During my career, I've seen it happen on multiple occasions. It's, might sound a little bit braggadocious, but I'm a good coach. I guarantee results. I always tell that moms and dad, I go, you bring me your son or your daughter, I will make them better than what they are. I guarantee you.
Give me the boy, I'll give you the man.
Yeah, exactly. But my thing is, don't meddle in my business. I've had some parents stick around. Like, for example, if I'm running like a kids class, again, I don't teach crazy there, because kids are kids. I'm trying to make a hard sport fun to them. So if I have, for example, I do teach a youth MMA class, but MMA doesn't stand for mixed martial arts. It stands for modern martial arts.
Sorry?
It stands for modern martial arts.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean? It means whatever I want it to mean there, Gareth. It's a physical education class. But if you actually were to walk into our schools, our high schools and our junior high, and you would see what our gym teachers are pawning off as a gym class today, sickens me. You wonder why United States is the land of opportunity. It's also the land of the obesity and things of that nature, because we really don't truly teach. We don't really teach anymore. Again, there's a lot of political parameters here right now, but I'm not going to get into that. But the sheer fact that we'll pass students, even though you're not even participating in class, we'll still pass you along. Programs that are known as No Child Left Behind. Some of the people that might have come up with this concept and idea, it's a great concept and idea. Implementation is a whole different ballgame. Many of your listeners aren't going to know this, but I actually have a teaching degree from Arizona State University. I have a high school teaching diploma, secondary ed, which means for high school. But I'm my area of expertise is shop classes such as woodworking, metalworking, automotives, a little bit of construction engineering. Most high schools don't have shop classes anymore. Typically, like in the United States, again, I can only speak for the United States. I can't really speak for what kind of programs are in Australia because I really don't know. Out of an entire county, a county is a 36 mile by 36 mile area. You might have within those parameters, you might have 3 or 4 high schools in and around these areas, and they will ship all of their skill center is what that category is known as, skill center, or the ones that want to take these type of classes to basically just to one school. And at this one school, it will have all the equipment so that they can teach woodworking, metalworking, metallurgy, welding classes, what's also known in the United States as skills, trade skills. Not everyone's going to be a doctor, a lawyer, mathematician, things of that nature. You still need people that are going to be welding and fabricating and construction workers to build homes, to build skyscrapers and just design things. These all kind of fall into the area of trades. And so I grew up on a farm, so working with my hands, building things, fixing things, making antiques, still run and be able to do their function. So
I learned from a very young age to appreciate every work role, job role. A lot of times people with a higher education, you might find that they look down on somebody with the shovel in their hand. I don't know. It's an important lesson, I think, for people to realize that somebody needs to do that job.
Yes. Well, again, kind of like, as we were driving around just earlier today, we talked about the aspect that there's a lot of unemployment, things of that nature, or people that say they're unemployable. Oh, there's all kinds of jobs that are out there. You may not like that job, because let's face it, there's a lot of lazy people in this world, or they're looking to skate through a door. To me, it's like there's all kinds of litter that needs to be picked up. To me, it's like, you could go out there and be picking up litter off the sides of the roads. You could be out there by our oceans and stuff like that, helping to pick out the trash along the beaches. There's all kinds of things that you could be done. You could be working at. You might be a mother that has a couple of children. Well, bring those children with you, and let's work at a daycare center during the day. You have your children with you, and so they're getting a daycare service while you're helping to assist all these other children while they're mothers and or fathers are off doing their jobs. So to me, I can find a job for just about anyone. But there's that fine line of, are they lazy? Are they trying to skate through life and not do nothing and then be a parasite to everybody else? And inside the United States, there's a lot of parasites. That, again, a lot of people may not like our president that we have here right now, but he's doing a great job in terms of economics and things of that nature. I said, I would probably be about the same way. There'd be a lot of things that I would not be doing. For example, inside the United States, in order for me to gain employment, I have to do a urine test, a pee test, and to test to see, do I have any drugs in my system? And if I do, I'm deemed unemployable. And yet, these same people can now go and sign up for welfare. And they get a free check, a monthly check. No. If I have to pee in a cup to be tested to get gainful employment, you need to pee in a cup to be tested in order to get your free check. And even then, I don't believe in free. Because if everything's free, who's going to flip the bill? Someone's got to pay for it in the end, and there's less and less people working, and that's not how it works. Again, and as I grew up, my parents would simply say, "No ticky, no washi," which just means, get your butt out there and work.
Yeah, no, I've certainly worked with and interacted with friends that have managed to acquire. Whoops, nearly dropped my glass there. Yeah, worked with friends that have managed to obtain some type of disability pension, mental health related at times, and then have spoken about the rut or the trap that then leads them into, because when they come then to they might feel like they're ready for employment, ready to work, they're left weighing up and trying to find the motivation to give up the disability payment and work, and it creates this sort of disparity between yes, I can go and work, but I also give up this disability payment, and it no longer becomes worth it, and before you know it, you're on a disability pension
for the rest of your life.
For the rest of your life.
But the hard part about that, it might have been simply just the occupation that they went into, because there's sales. Inside the United States, sales is probably the highest area that you can make a great income. If you are a good salesperson, you can make really phenomenal money, but it's also very stressful. So you can see that's not cut out for everyone. There's a lot of people that they don't want to walk up to that podium to make a speech. They're okay talking one-on-one. They're okay with interaction, with talking with people, but they don't want the spotlight on them when they walk up there to do whatever, to speak about a subject matter or to do an acceptance speech or something like this. That's not. They would rather do anything but.
Public speaking is quite anxiety provoking for people.
It is. Even myself, I never wanted to do that. But in like my senior year in high school, because certain things were starting to happen to me already, where I was being drawn in to speak about this, speak to that, and I'm thinking, I don't want to. That's not what I just want. I just want this opportunity to be good at something, so I could go to college without having to have a huge financial student loan debt. I was going to go into the military first, because I was going to give up 4 years of my life in the military, then go out and go to college on the GI Bill. But then by my sophomore year, when the opportunities start coming from college, it's kind of like going, gosh, we have option number 2. I can use my athletic ability. So, again, I'm just kind of rattling off a couple of things right there. But, and I know that I don't mean to put you on the spot, but some of those same people that you're talking about right now, it might be the profession that they went into. There might be another job where they don't really have to interact with people. That might be a less stressful type of job for them that they should be in. There's a job for everybody. That's how I really feel about it. You know, again, it's we still need ditch diggers. We still need pipe layers. We still need people to clean up trash. You still need people. You know, you may not. Do you know what a garbage worker makes in the city of New York City? $100,000+ a year.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yes, I'm thinking, and what skill set do they really have? You might be driving the truck, or are you the guy that's hanging on the back of there just grabbing garbage cans and throwing them in the back end?
Really highlights that if you've got the motivation to work, you can
Yes.
earn a crust.
There's jobs galore. Right now inside the United States, we do not have enough skilled laborers. Skilled laborers. I always want to say that, define that, because, there's a lot of bodies, but are these bodies capable of learning skills? Yeah, they're not like the more medial type of work, robotics is taking over. If it's simply putting in nuts and bolts and twisting them, no, a robot's going to take your job, because that's mind numbing. I don't want to be there for 8 or 10 hours a day doing that same job. Better get, someone might commit suicide at that point, knowing that if they're going to do that for the next 30 years of life, that ain't going to happen. Robotics are taking over more and more of these menial type of thing. But when it goes with dealing with people, anything to deal with service industries, the things of nature, you have to have skill sets. You have to be able to talk to people. You have to be able to make eye contact. You have to be able to read people. And there's a whole lot of skill set that you have to have.
We talked a little bit earlier today, didn't we, about the use of social media, the use of mobile phones, the way things are going, and
how it's isolated. It's actually an isolated society, because you can stay. Well, there's a lot of employment now where you do not have to go into work. You can work from your own home with your laptop and your cell phone. You don't have to go in, because you're typing up this and you're emailing, or you're communicating over the phone, type, text, whatever it is right there. So you have less and less interaction with people, and people's social graces are digressing. They don't, again, as I said, simple type of things. They don't know how to make eye contact. They don't know how to shake another person's hand. They don't understand social graces.
How to initiate a conversation, keep a conversation going. People get quite anxious about those things.
Sometimes just even going out in public. Some people have like this claustrophobia, not claustrophobia, but they just have these phobias about issues. Going outside because they haven't been interacting with people. I mean, you could look at the age factor of elderly folks. As they get older and older, their world gets smaller and smaller, because their family, their friends, their peers are gone. And, their ability to drive a motorized vehicle, maybe they lost their license. So again, their world just keeps getting closed in to where maybe it's only the people inside their community. But if you do learn certain aspects of how to use your laptop to where you can Skype and talk and communicate with family and friends, it's ways of keeping in contact when you're on one side of the world and they're on the other side of the world. It's waves of contact. You use the words a lot there today. The word called balance. There's a balance that you have to have. You can't live all together with technology. You have to actually have interaction with real people. But then again, look how robots are even going into where you can actually now have a mate who is a robot that will speak to you, and it has certain types of, you can ask it questions, and it's what do you call the one I think it's called Siri inside the United States, where you can, hey Siri, what's the weather outside, and it will tell you what the temperature is. Hey Siri, how much is 2 + 2, and it will tell you the mathematical equation. When was Thomas Edison this? I mean, you can ask it history, mathematical, and boom, answers are spot on.
I think I did that today when we were talking about and looking out over the Sydney Harbour Bridge, and you asked me
a question.
How long has that been there? I called on that.
Yeah, and see, again, that was something I did not know that an app like that was right on your cell phone, which, I mean, it was kind of foolish on my part, because I'm thinking, again, technology continues to advance to where the first computers were the size of an entire block, a city block. The original ones, because they had all these spinning wheels, I mean, big mechanisms, to where now you've got this little cell phone that has more power than what those had. And it will continue to scale down, and there'll be more and more apparatuses being added to it. Call it apps, apparatuses, whatever. I mean, it's a couple other areas that I dabble in there, Gareth. I dabble in telemedicine. Just like what you had talked about before about doing psychology type of segments, online. Yep. I mean, you've got the exact same thing that's taking place with telemedicine. You don't have to go to a doctor now. They can actually look at you over the screen. There are certain mechanisms that the apps that they're putting on the cell phone to where you can take your temperature, you could do, and get certain types of readings and that, again, off of your cell phone.
Yeah.
How many of your cell phones that you have to put your thumbprint onto it in order to open on up? Not just a code anymore. You put your thumb onto it. Well, it can also read your pulse. It can also take your temperature. And again, if they come up eventually with the telemedicine app, I'm sure it will have all these other things, and it might be a newer type of high tech phone, but I could see. Like for a country like the United States, we literally have more senior citizens than we do of young people right now. We're out of balance.
Is that people living longer?
Well, a combination of things. There was just through World War One and Two, and the big baby boom when all the returning soldiers and things of that nature. But these folks all now they're in their 60s and 70s now, and they're drawing upon their own Social Security, and they put in their 30 years and their pensions. But those are other areas that pensions are going away more and more. Not too often are you going to find that you're going to be employed by a company for 30 years. There's no guarantee that company's going to be there for 30 years. You have to have skill sets so that that you may have to go to 2, 3, or more different jobs for the course of your career in order to get X number of years built up so that you can retire. And in the United States, they look at you draw Social Security at age 65. You can postpone that up until I think 70 or 71, and each year that you postpone it grows by even a greater percentage, so that if you don't take it until you're like 70 or 71, or I think it's 70 and a half, I don't know, it's kind of like a funny type of year, like either 70 and a half, and I think the earliest you could get is like 59 and a half. It's just kind of weird how they came up with this and a half. But it should like 59 and a half. It should have been like 60. Why don't you just say 60?
Keep it round.
Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't asked that day to put my vote in, so otherwise I would have just said that. Don't complicate things here. But there's rules all through life that you have to amend to and add, and some people don't want to work. As the same way they don't want to play by the rules. But to me, you got to have some type of rules in life, otherwise anarchy takes place. And we have a lot of unrest and anarchy taking place inside the United States with all kinds of issues of, immigrants coming in that are not warranted, and coming in illegally and having some crazy politicians that are so extreme on one side, the other side is kind of like going. Again, from a Dan Severn perspective here, I don't like the party system. I don't like Democrats. I don't like Republicans. I don't like independent. To me, whatever happened to just do the right thing for the people. Even in our biggest document is the Constitution of the United States, and it starts off with the very first sentence: "We, the people." Now, our Congress and our Senate has different health benefits than all the rest of the people. Whatever happened with our Constitution? We, the people. It doesn't say us and you all. No, we, the people. There's a double standard there that there should be term limits on our politicians, because you could be a lifetime politician. You could be a lifetime Congress, Senate. There's lifetime appointments to this Supreme Court, House of. No. There's a point in time when you are obsolete. You're too old. You're not current. And most of our politicians are not current because they don't interact with people, normal people, on an everyday basis. They interact with their colleagues who live in all these nice gated communities, who are eating at these $500 a plate, $1,000 a plate type of fundraisers, stuff like this. The normal person doesn't do that. When's the last time you seen a politician brown bag their lunch? They've lost touch. You got people that are just so far out there that they are obsolete.
They quite often, I know a common question to check whether a politician is in touch with reality is asking them for the price of different goods. How much is a liter of milk? How much is a loaf of bread?
Yeah. I actually tell about that. I always tell people that, because I bring up stuff like that I've kept kind of like a running log of the changes that I have seen in my own life. For example, you talk about, a liter of gas. Again, I don't know how many liters are that form to make a gallon, because we go by the gallon system inside the United States. But I remember seeing a gallon of gas at 26 cents a gallon. Gas, the cheapest gas you can probably get right now inside the United States, is going to be around $2.80, somewhere in that area. A McDonald's hamburger was 15 cents. So again, different prices and stuff like that. But times are going to change, and it's like money and the value of money, that's all going to change there as well, because what did people earn per hour back then, and what are they making per hour now is different. And there's a big discrepancy between, do you want to be an hourly wage person or do you want to be salary? Because usually if you're hourly wage, you work about 40 hours a week. And if you're salary, you work way more than 40 hours. If you're salary, it's a license to steal from you, because now you might be working 50 hours, 60 hours, but you're still
get the job done.
But you're still paid the same. And that's, to me, it's wrong. But again, I know we're moving around a different type of subject matter, but
a lot of your past is quite well documented. People are aware of what's been televised, your competitions.
Only of my, not to interrupt you, but only of my athletic prowess. So when you think about that, again, I just say that because the only reason people know about Dan Severn is because of my athletic prowess. But who is Dan Severn? What is Dan Severn? What does Dan Severn really stand for? That's a whole different demeanor right there. You might, sure, the guy's a great football player. He's a great rugby player. He's a great swimmer. He's this, she's that, the whole 9 yards. But what does that really say about the person? What kind of a person? Are they a good person? Things of that nature. To me, it's like one of the things that people walk away from after they've had a chance to chat me with a little bit. The standard line that I've heard many, many times over, they'll say something like, "You are not at all how we thought you would be." And I go, "What do you mean?" "Well, you got the ring name The Beast. I've actually been at different types of public signage, stuff like that, and out of the corner of my eye, I'll see a couple gentlemen off the corner, and they'll be pointing and talking and looking at me. And then when I turn my head and look at them, they don't even want to make eye contact with me. They're like turning away and stuff like that because they're nervous. And then I'm like, come on over, guys. I'm not going to bite you. Well, if I do, it won't be all that hard. I mean, I'm using humor and stuff like that to kind of lure them on in. And I go, ask me questions. Or I might be already talking. I go, I might be talking to somebody else. I go, why don't you come on in, listen to the conversation. These guys are asking me this question. You might be asking me the same question there 5 minutes from now. But so I get, as I'm talking to one group, other people are listening. And it now leads to additional question. They're just like, wow, we can't believe that you actually have a sense of humor. You smile, you laugh. They're like, dude, you're the most intimidating person we've ever seen. When you come out to that cage, they're like, you are focused. I go, of course I am. I've got a job to do. I go. I used to kid people when I'd be on an airplane or something like this, and I'm traveling. People would be looking at me, and they're like, "Well, are you an athlete?" Because like you said, got big, broad shoulders, stuff like that, big, thick individual. Especially when I was younger, I was bigger and thicker and stuff like that. Yet, and they're like, "Are you an athlete?" And I go, "Well, I'm a professional athlete." And they're like, "Really?" And they're like, "Well, what sport are you in?" I says, or actually, how it goes. They'll be like, what occupation are you in? I said, well, I make money the good old fashioned way. And they're like, well, how's that? Well, I beat people up and take it. And then they always look at me like, oh my God, maybe I should not have asked that question. But I go, no, I'll just kind of laugh. I go, no, I'm an athlete in competition. They're like, are you a fighter or something like that? Well, I go, well, I've been a little bit of everything. I said that. I said I've been involved in the Ultimate Fighting Championships, but I go, I'm not a fighter. And then they're like, well, but I've watched that Ultimate Fighting Championship. They go, that's some crazy stuff. You got to be fair. I said, no, I'm a competitor. I go, it's a different mindset. I said, I'm not a fighter. I've never been in a fight in my entire life, but I've been a competitor my entire life. And that, again, that's a different mindset. But at the same token, I look at life is competition. Life is competition. We compete to try to get the best jobs we possibly can. We compete to try to get the best home that we possibly can. We compete to try to get the best significant other that we possibly can. So life is competition. Anyone that says anything different is an ostrich. Their head is in the sand because life is competition.
Fight for survival.
It starts off in school. You're trying to get grades. It might be an A, B, C, or if you don't do well at all, it might be a D or an E. So it's this principle of you're getting grades or rewards. Are you good at things? And the thing is, you have to realize I don't like these programs like No Child Left Behind or everyone gets a trophy. No, that's BS in Dan Severn's world.
Waters it down.
Yeah, well, it means nothing. But then also, to me, it's kind of like it's like socialism. They say, no, it's not. We just don't want people to feel bad if they don't do well. I go, but not everyone's going to be good at something. I go, I mean, I'm not a swimmer, for example. I'm like throwing a rock in the water. I'm going to sink. Okay, I will be never in any swimming competitions, or if I am, it might be because I have a little floaty around my waist, and that may not look all that masculine for Dan to be Severn to be running into the pool with his little floating apparatus so he can stay afloat. But I mean, there's certain things that people are not good at. It's not to point out your flaws. I mean, there are different lines of work. Just way that there's different types of academics, just like there's different types of jobs. There's different. We're not all the same. That's one of the great things about this world. If we're all the same, we're a bunch of clones. But the world is a kind of a weird, wacky type place. All kinds of unusual, very creative, genius type of people, and other people that they're not the sharpest knife in the drawer. You have to kind of hold their hand, but again, they may be the people that again might be doing a mediocre type of job, but can they get a job? They sure can. It might be just holding a stick that has a little sharp point at the end, and they're picking up trash off the ground to put in their litter bag. But someone's got to do that.
That's right.
Otherwise,
back to that job for everybody.
Yeah.
I alluded to it a little bit earlier. People have some sense of your athletic career.
Okay.
What I would like them to get a sense of is what you're like now. And there's a typical question that I often ask clients in practice, in my counseling practice, is to describe a typical day in considerable detail.
You want to know what a typical day would be for Dan Severn? Okay, well, again, Dan Severn's in Australia right now, so my timetable. But a standard day for Dan Severn is I roll out around 6 a.m. I'm not quite fully alert yet, but I roll out around 6 a.m. I get up and I usually always brush my teeth. I don't know why it is, but it's kind of like you kind of a flavor in your mouth over the night. So I'm always, even though I brush my teeth the night before, I still brush my teeth. And then I kind of move through the house. I go through. I always go over to my office area. I'm not quite awake yet, but I'll fire up the computer. I'll go to the fridge and I'll make up a beverage. One thing that I always start off my day with, I have kind of a special elixir that I make up that I've talked to you a little bit off mic about. But I'll make up one of these elixirs first thing in the morning, and it's a good size elixir. Knowing that I'm only going to really drink one of these a day, because I think that there's always, there's that expression, too much of a good thing is still too much of a good thing.
Back to the balance.
Yes, again, exactly. I'll drink a lot. I drink a lot of just water through the system there as well, because it's one of the easiest things to go through, sweats out the body. So as I'm kind of waking on up and doing this, now the computer's now fired on up. As I go back out, I've got my drink, so I'm waking up a little bit more. I start to see, okay, as the laptop is firing on up, I start to purge out all the junk stuff. Gets purged out right away. I'll look at what the time is, and I'll set my timer already, because I simply know that it's easy to get wrapped up into things, and hours will pass. Especially if you go to things like Facebook and stuff like that, you can easily lose just hours real quickly. So I'll set my timer, and knowing that, okay, for now, I want to be heading outside, do something else, because again, I'm trying to blend this balance of mind and body. And so for like the hour, I'll be doing that. I'll be drinking my little elixir drink. I'm knocking off emails. I'm knocking off Facebook messages. I might do a post. I've got my planner out. I'll see what did I not get done from the day before. Keep working on the to-do list that will never get done.
And I know I was fortunate to have breakfast with you this morning, probably at around 7:30.
Yeah.
One of the first things you said that you'd already done 100 push-ups.
Yes.
Before breakfast.
Yes. Well, again, that was. My life kind of changes in different. It all depends on where I'm at. The hardest part is when you're on the road. Like I'm on the road right now. The hardest part is working out. But it's not for me anymore, because I design programs to where I would say that I can't get to the gym, but my gym there's a floor right there. There's sit-ups. There's push-ups. There's squats. Do you have the creativity to do things? There's people that live across from a gym that they don't have the ambition to simply cross the road, or they don't want to spend the money on the gym membership, yet they're going to buy cigarettes, and they're going to buy beer, and they're going to buy junk food, and yet they couldn't spend $25 to $45 for a monthly gym membership. But again, that's where are your priorities? Or what are your goals? Some people are depressed, so they smoke maybe out of depression. Or some people, they're addicted to this smoking, or they're some people. There was one point in time where women thought that by smoking it helped the kind of like uh, D.
Appetite
Yeah,
suppressant?
it's like an appetite suppressant. I kept thinking, I never understood that one whatsoever. But to me, it's like to each their own. I didn't get into smoking, just like I didn't get into drinking. But again, I'm digressing. So my day is, yeah, like today, yeah, I knocked off 100, but not like I did 100 in a row. I'll just do as many as I can, knowing that the first 5 or 10 or 15 push-ups are easy. It's when I get to, like for example, this morning, I know that I get right around that 30 mark, give or take a couple this way or that way, to where I know that those last 2 or 3, I'm doing the best for my body, because I'm struggling. I'm shaking a little bit to try to lock out those last 1 or 2. And those are the ones that really did the most for my body, not the previous 10 or 15 of them. And then I do like one set, and then I might stand up. I might do some torso twists, might do some marching in place, torso twists. I might do some side bends, to where I don't need a gym. I just need the imagination, and I need the motivation to do it. And then I'll sit right back down at my desk, and I'll go right to work again. That's what I did here. But if I was back at either Coldwater, Michigan residence, or in Fountain Hills residence, I like to go outside. I'm an outside person, again, maybe because of that farm boy and stuff like that. Well, let's say if it was a Monday morning, early Monday morning, and I'm out in the Fountain Hills, Arizona, I'll grab the trash. I'll take the trash outside, and there's the daughter has a dog, so she's not good about picking up dog poop. Well, I don't want to be stepping in dog poop. I pick it up real quick. I got the shovel and the little rake. Boom, boom, boom. Pick up all the dog poop. That goes in a garbage bag. I clean out the filter of the swimming pool, so all the leaves and debris, so it functions really nicely. The pool looks good, and then then I look around the yard to see what can I do to make it look better. Knowing that I'm only going to go outside for maybe, let's say, 7 to 10 minutes. It'll take me to take the garbage out, pick up the poop, clean out the pool filter, and then I'm going to look around to see, okay, what do I want to do next? And it might be trimming up a tree. It might be, oh no, next time I come out, I'm going to water these couple plants, or I'll do something. Then I go back into my office, and I set my alarm again for the next hour, because in the United States, we are a very sedentary society. We sit all the time. They now have desktops that actually rise on up to I can either be seated or I can be standing. And so I can still, because it's mostly keyboard type of work that we're doing. I don't care if you're a graphic designer, you're still using keyboard somehow. And I'll go to work again for like the next hour. So this hour on, taking 5 or 10 minutes to go do something else is what I do. But then also in between there, it might be, again, another set of push-ups. It might be another exercise. If and when I do watch TV, which I don't very often. Like when I'm in Coldwater, Michigan, very rarely do I watch television. I don't know why it is. I'm just a lot more structured when I'm there. I just don't watch as much television. Not that I watch much at the beginning. Matter of fact, like where we're at in this hotel room, I haven't turned on our television yet. We've been here how many days, and I haven't turned it on yet. I doubt if I will. It's just that I've got my laptop, and I still have things that I still need to get done. I also work for myself. So if I work for a company, well, all you got to do is go to that company job and give them your 8 or 10 hours a day. I work for myself. So you work more than 8 or 10 hours, because it's always, you have to produce results. Otherwise, there's no income. And I don't put all my eggs into one basket. I like knowing that I have multiple careers taking place simultaneously. I'll say a lot of it is in the fact that I do instructional type work. I still love teaching amateur wrestling, folk style, amateur wrestling freestyle, amateur wrestling Greco-Roman, submission grappling, with a gi or without a gi, because these are all gaining more and more popularity. I do speaking engagements. I do appearances. I work with law enforcement. I work with corrections, especially there. Well, law enforcement, corrections, air marshal, border patrol, military. My specialty segment with all of those different branches is a ground combatives program, because not all altercations are going to end up on their feet. Most of them end up on the ground. When you look at like the Ultimate Fighting Championships, 99.9% of the matches will all end up on the ground, and they will be finished there on the ground. Mm-hmm. And I always tell people to go, it's not me who made up the rules, just watch. And you'll see the stats is what proved that. So I'll tell people, you better prepare for where most of these matches are going to end up. So all these different things that I do, they're all different, but I always tell people that all my eggs are not in one basket. If one thing goes wrong for me, Dan Severn's okay, because Dan Severn has other ability. I speak of segments again, because I'm an older Dan Severn now. I'm a 61-year-old Dan Severn. People wonder, why have you been successful for so long? Why don't you look all beat up? Why aren't you at Warren Tour? Why aren't you limping? And why aren't you in a wheelchair? Because you've got incredible number of matches. I go, I take care of myself. I haven't gone the route of all the chemical enhancements and things of nature. I'm on 100% lifetime chemical free. I've worked hard in my athletic careers in different type of aspects to build up a body. But even the greater tool I probably have is that mental capacity. I said earlier, that attitude goes a long way, and it's there's a childhood fable. Again, I probably read when I was a child, and I've read it to my children at different times, because I've got 5 kids. I call them kids, but oldest son now is 33, getting ready to turn 34. Youngest son is 20, but they all kind of got read different types of childhood fables. And the one childhood fable that I'll recite right now is, the title of it is called The Little Train That Could. I don't know if you ever heard of this little childhood fable, but it kind of doubted itself, because it was like the smallest train, kind of more of a clickety-clack older train and stuff like that. And it had kind of didn't have a very positive feel, because all these other big locomotives were looking at it and stuff like that. But then it started to chug along, and it had this attitude, can I get up this hill? I think I can. 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 And it doesn't. So again, it's a childhood fable, but there's a lot of ways that you can reinforce your own mind and stuff like this. Call that a way of, some people can hypnotize you. I just call it just positive reinforcement. If you think you're capable of doing things, you can. So again, the little train that could, I think I can. And growing up with parents, I always tell people that I'm a perfect blend of both of my parents. My father was a very big, thick, stoic man. That's why I take after him, physical frame and stuff like that wise. And my mother was one of these people that she flew by the seat of her pants. She could make anything work. And there was times when she could go to that fridge, and I'm looking at that fridge, and I don't see nothing in there worth eating. And all of a sudden, she goes in that fridge, and she whips up a masterpiece of food. And I'm thinking, I just looked at that fridge. How did she just pull it? It's like she was the magician of doing things. So again, I'm a blend of both people, and they help instill that ability that you can do and be whatever you want to be, even though I don't think they ever really said those words, but they, and how many times were they able to actually be at athletic events? My father worked, in the automotive industry. There was different times when you wait till your father gets home. I'm thinking, who is this mysterious man? I've never seen him because he worked a third shift. So in the morning we wouldn't see him in the morning, stuff like that. And but there was always chores to do, and we'd see him on the weekends. And he was always home for different. He worked different types of shifts throughout his entire 40 years that he gave his life and soul to the automotive industry. I mean, that's working for basically one company. Like I said, that era is gone. I know I'm kind of going off a different tangent, but a lot of it still just boil down to people come up with excuses. My parents are divorced. My mom didn't love me enough. My dad didn't hug me enough. Everybody has to work. And it's a weird world that we live into. Stop looking for excuses. Grow a spine and take care of yourself. Take care of business. And somewhere along the line, learn to take care of a few other people. There comes a point in your life where you need to either give back or try to make a difference. I have a lot of people that they thank me for all the things because I'm a giving person. But typically I give advice. I've had a lot of people that have, they've asked me for loans. I don't do that anymore because that has put a strain on most of my relationships with those individuals because their intention was they've never paid me back. It's kind of like, so I just stop. I'll give you advice. I'll try to help motivate you, but I'm not going to give you money. There's even in the Bible, there's a phrase that goes like this. I may not say it exactly. If I feed you fish, I feed you for the day. If I teach you how to fish, I feed you for a lifetime. I'd rather teach you how to fish than to give you fish. So that's just me. There's skill sets. This boils to a lot of things we talked about. There's a job for everybody. Don't be a parasite. Dan Severn's epitaph will read, I made a difference. Was it a difference in athletics? I made my mark. But I will have made a difference in a lot of other people's lives because I have lived my life on my terms. Nobody gave me anything. I competed for. I fought for. I received. Can't say, and I did it. I did it. Nobody gave me anything. My parents gave me the foundation. Everybody has a foundation. And again, as much as I criticize electronic devices, they are great tools. Stop moaning about your sad situation and make a difference. You got 24 hours, just like you've got 24 hours, Gareth, just like I got 24 hours. How are you going to spend your time? Don't wait till late in life and realize you have regrets. Does Dan Severn have regrets? Sure, I've got some regrets. Some. Can I turn back the clock of time? No. I'll live with them and I'll move forward and I will have learned from my mistakes. But it's kind of like going, on my epitaph, it will just say, this dude was on this planet for X number of years. I'm hoping it's 125. But I made a difference in a lot of people's lives.
There are so many different directions I could go there, but I am mindful of time.
Let me, again, I'm going to interrupt you for, okay, we've talked about the ring name, The Beast. And I did not come up with it, but the beast has a lot of negative connotations, especially when you think religiously and stuff like this. Dan Severn's not a negative person. So Dan Severn came up with an acronym that stands for The Beast. The, THE, stands for Dan Severn. I'm a teacher, humanitarian, and I'm an educator, THE. The message that Dan Severn preaches is beast. Believe in yourself. Educate yourself. Adjust your everyday attitude. Study hard and then teach others, because you can't take it with you. When you die, you die. You're gone. You can't take wealth. You can't take that knowledge. You can't take it with you. You're gone. Share it with others. Try to teach others. I say at the end, teach others, because you can't take it with you. And again, you probably, Gareth, you've known me over time. I do have a lot of old cliches that I say, and I also say that life is divided into two halves. In the first half of your life, you will destroy your health while trying to acquire wealth. Sleep deprivation, whole 9 yards. In the second half of your life, you will spend that wealth trying to reacquire your health. And in the end, you'll give it all away just to live a little bit longer, because you can't take it with you. And I have seen men that my one neighbor, I carried him out of his bed. He had bad cancer. I mean, last time I saw him, he was like a 250-pound man, and what I carried out weighed less than 100 pounds. And I carried him out to his car, and his wife was taking him to a hospital, knowing that this is the last time I'll ever see this man. And he was gone. I saw her a few days later. He passed away peacefully, stuff like this, but it was like going, you can't take it with you. So again, I'm not trying to end up on a sad note, but it's the beast. I have a positive message of what I'm doing. I've had a phenomenal career. I've helped people all the way through, whether I'm teaching them amateur wrestling, teaching them professional wrestling, teaching them, and people that have come to my training facility or to any of my similar stuff like this. I always tell people, I don't promise you I'll make you a better athlete. I don't promise you that I'll make you a better competitor, but I do promise you I'll make you a better person.
Dan, last thing. I have a very dear friend that some years ago would always ask people for one piece of advice on life, business, or women.
That's kind of an interesting trifecta. Life, business, or women, okay? Well, Gareth, you already know my warped sense of humor. You've just spent some time with Ron Laurie and myself. We have a pretty good, pretty good heckling. She busts my chops pretty good there on that day. So, well, finish your question here first.
Oh, that is it, and I realised that you may have already answered it, because you did talk about the topic of advice in the final moments there. But that is the question: to pick one of those fields, life, business, or women. Well, one piece of advice.
And throughout the entire conversation we've had, I have talked about a lot of things. And early in my career, I talked about options, giving myself options. At first, I kept thinking, if I went, how am I going to go to college? Because again, I'm young at that point. Anyone listening to this right now, you're going to have different obstacles at different points in time. And it's how you make these decisions. I think that there's a plan for all of us, and I think how that plan changes is how you make decisions. Am I going to run into a dead end? Am I going to have to make a U-turn? Am I going to go into this roundabout, and I may end up in this roundabout, and I might be just hitting some circles for a few times before I finally get off and head off into the right direction. Some people get caught up in that roundabout and they never get off. It just depends on that individual. Try, my best advice is don't let life happen to you. Make life happen for you. Have some sort of a plan, knowing nothing goes perfectly in this world. You're going to have some dead ends, some U-turns, and a few of those roundabouts that you're going to hit. When adversity hits, it's how you respond to that adversity. Are you going to lay down and start crying and let life continue to kick you? You may lay down and you may cry for a little bit. Get back on up. Dust yourself on off and say, is that the best you can do? It's a competition. Don't let it beat you. Fight back. You get one life in this world. You better live it to the tilt. Don't have any regrets in the end, because there's a lot of people. I've talked to nurses that work in a lot of senior citizen homes. There's a lot of people that have regrets of things they did not do, or beefs with people they did not amend, and things of the nature. Go, don't have regrets. Live life to the fullest. It's I don't know. There's so many different things I could say in there, but everything I'm looking at is in a positive type of manner. You and I, you spoke to me earlier there, and I even said how I want to be telling my kids what to do well past when I'm gone, because I'm in the process of putting together a trust fund. I have 5 kids, so there'll be a trust fund that'll be set up to where they're never going to touch the principal. They're just going to touch the interest, and they'll get all 5 of them. They get their equal share of what comes off of this interest, and they're not going to touch 100% interest. They're going to touch maybe up to 75 to 85% of it, because each year I want it to grow bigger, because your bills will never go down. Your bills will always increase. So I want this trust fund to increase over time, but I want it to know that also it gets transferred to their kids, my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren, my great-great-grandchildren, so that somewhere down the road there, they'll be like, wow, granddaddy Beast had quite the vision that he put this together. Look at how many different great-great-great-great-grandkids he's taking care of now, because he had the foresight to do this. Dan Severn is okay. Dan Severn is financial. I'm fine. I don't drive Rolls Royces. I don't live in a mansion, because I don't need to. I don't need to show off for nobody, because what does that say? Does that make me a better person because I have a better car, a better house? No. I met some shitbags, excuse my friends, people that are very undesirable, who are rich and wealthy, but they're miserable individuals. I'm a very happy man. I've worked for myself. I make my own goals, aspirations. I don't have to do nothing if I don't want to. I'd be bored to death, because I still have my list of goals of what does Dan Severn still want to achieve. I have lots of things I want to achieve. Experience, go see, go do. So it will never end until the day I draw my last breath. And even then, who knows what great adventure I'm on to next.
Dan Severn, the Beast, thank you very much.
Thank you, Gareth, for having me.